Daftaboutcraft, the craft beer podcast.
Hey, it's that time again. Welcome to episode 59 of Daftaboutcraft, the craft beer podcast. It's us two again. It's me, Dave D.
And me, Dave B.
And welcome along, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to us once again. Hope we find you fit and well. Hope you've been having some nice beers. We have, and we'll be talking about those and introducing you to new breweries and all sorts as the episode goes on. Lots and lots for you.
Our main guest this time around is Alex Bell, who is the head brewer at New Wharf Brewery. Interestingly, we're sort of keeping this theme going so far this year without really trying, of having guests where the beers aren't perhaps the big IPAs of a big stouts, although that's going to be changing soon. They're sort of traditional but modern takes on traditional, and I think New Wharf fit into that. And Alex sort of talks to us about what New Wharf do and his history, which is very extensive. He has been in beer a long time.
And there's even some talk about witches, which we didn't expect as well, isn't there?
Yeah, it took a bit of a sideways turn, that conversation. He really knows his brewing history, doesn't he?
He does, yeah. And so you could be finding out all about that. This weekend just gone, I have been at the Craft Brew Festival in Manchester, and we'll be talking to Simon and Gaz, the brains behind that operation, and all of their festivals they've got lined up for the rest of the year. That's at the end of the podcast in our Any Other Business section.
You were also busy talking to our long-standing friends, Copper Beach.
Absolutely, yeah. They released a beer for the beer festival. We'll be talking more about that later as well. Sam from Copper Beach will be here with the brewer's wife, talking about a trip to Bristol they had recently to visit some of the craft beer hotspots down there. Also got Tried and Tested, our favourite beer since our last episode. And we'll kick off, as we always do, with Brew to Me, where we pick up a beer from a brewery we haven't tried before. What have you got, Dave?
Having been in Wales for the last couple of episodes, I'm now a lot closer to home. I am in Southminster this time, and I'm having a beer from Ramsey Island Brewery. And once again, we have beers that are modernish takes on traditional styles. Yep. There's only the 3 beers at the moment, which John, the founder, brewer, and everything Ramsey Island will tell us about very shortly. And they've not been going very long at all. So still in the infancy. John very kindly sent us all 3 beers. They're en route to you.
Oh, I've got them as well. Excellent. I love these parcels that turn up with all these beers. It's great.
John is proud of all 3, but he seems to talk most favourably and most proudly of the Blackwater, which is a Stern Stout, 4.8%, and that is what I should be sampling.
You've got it there. This is in can, we should say, not bottle, because sometimes when we talk about beers with more traditional influences, we'll find them in bottles, but this is in can.
Now, the cans are actually really nice. So the stout comes in green, and the other 2 beers are blue and red. Very simple, but simple yet they'd stand out a little bit. They're nice. There's a bit of a tactile thing with the labelling as well. It's not quite those ones, you know, when it's all moulded in almost and it feels really soft. I must say, I read the description on the website and also how John will, as we'll hear from, describes it, and it pours exactly how he says it will. Lovely and dark. It's come out looking brilliant. Description of the Blackwater, like its namesake, our humble estuary. The Blackwater is a dark body of mystery. Our stout has a resinous aroma supported by a roasted chocolatey body and glorious mouthfeel, topped off with a creamy white head, which it certainly did have, for a smooth and hearty beer.
You know, last time I came down to see you, and I stayed over at yours, and I went somewhere the next morning. Do you remember, on a Saturday morning?
Yes, you were off to Radio Caroline, I believe.
Who are anchored on their boat in the Blackwater estuary.
Yeah, it always ties together. It's that Kevin Bacon 7 degrees of separation thing, isn't it?
Love it when that happens.
Tell you what, this is lovely. It really is.
I'm not going to use the word viscous. Is it quite thick? It looks thick in the glass. That's the only reason I say it.
I agree. No, because it's not got any lactose or anything, so it's not that thick, syrupy thick. But it does have, as the description says, that mouthfeel. It is really good for that. It's really nice and full, but it is nice and light still.
Well, I'll tell you what, should we pass over to John then, and he can tell us about the brewery and about this beer and his other beers as well?
Hi, my name is John Skerritt. I set up Ramsey Island Brewery in late October 2022, and the company's been making beer since May last year. We're doing all of our beer in kegs and cans, with perhaps a bit of bottling in the future. At present, the brewery is just me doing most everything, though my close friends and family give me invaluable help. Hats off, in particular, to my wife Hannah for keeping me focused, and my friend Tom Reynolds, who does the amazing design work for the brewery. At the brewery, we have a small 2-barrel plant from Elite Stainless from Swindon with a 5-tank cellar, 4 2-barrel fermentation vessels, and 1 6-barrel. This allows us flexibility and the depth necessary to do a range of styles of beer, including lager and stout. My family has been here in this corner of Essex for 5 generations or so, and our beer reflects the area I've grown up in and my passion for old school styles of modern craft beer. In Essex and East Anglia, there's a vibrant community of small businesses and market networks that work hard and cooperate to bring local produce to our corner of the UK. And at Ramsey Island Brewery, we're excited to join that scene. We had a choice when we set up the brewery, whether or not to go down the real ale route or to go for craft beer. In the world of real ale, pubs tend not to be tied on their casks, so sales might have proven a bit easier in some respects. However, being a small company with only 1 full-time staff member, i.e. me, the prospect of managing a highly time-sensitive cellar along with energetically and continuously finding new taps of the beer seemed too much for just one person. Besides, there's already a fantastic number of real ale breweries in the area, so I didn't want to compete too much with our immediate neighbours. Otherwise, where's the unique point of the business? On the other hand, with craft beer, there are only a handful of breweries in Essex that sell their core range in kegs and cans like us. So I thought, let's help bring craft beer, lagers, pale ales and such to an area that's at present dominated by macro lager, pub chains and bigger breweries. Essex is definitely one of the youngest counties. It's one of the wealthiest counties in the UK, and it's really close to London. So the question is, why is the beer market here so muted? We want to help break the stranglehold that big breweries have on the drinking culture of Essex and bring craft beer to Essex in as big a way as we can. On to the beers before you, gentlemen. The first beer we made at Ramsey Island Brewery was Tide Turner, our pale ale. It's 5.5% ABV, very drinkable and approachable. It uses Cascade, Mandarina Bavaria, and First Gold hops. So the beer really emphasizes sort of orangey, citrusy, and earthy flavors. We put a few kilo of oats in there too for a bit of body and mouthfeel. It's a real love letter to older varieties of pale ale. From the early days of the craft beer revolution. It eschews the sort of hyper hazy and fruity and tropical fashion of contemporary IPAs, and it's only lightly dry hopped to about 2 or 3 grams a litre. And it looks more to the early 2000s for inspiration. It's a real sort of classic pale ale, nice and hoppy and unapologetically just a bit bitter. Onto our lager. It's the Made of Stone. Stone is another name for the town my family has lived in for ages, St. Lawrence. And the Made of Stone was actually the name of my dad's boat. So the pun of the Made of Stone for a boat was just irresistible, and I stole it for the beer. And it really sort of ties the beer to the area. The beer is a sort of a hybrid between Austrian and American lager. It's a little sweeter than most lagers on the UK market, so it sounds up nicely from the crowd when you drink it. There's a bit of Vienna malt in there. It's mashed a little warmer than usual beers, so it's at 66 degrees rather than 64. So again, really making it just a bit sweeter and a bit less dry. It leans into British hops. It only uses the delightfully blackberry and fruity Browning Cross. So it's got a more distinctive sort of British flavour than a lot of noble hops lagers that you find from the continent. The Blackwater is obviously the stout. The estuary that flows within sight of the brewery is called the River Blackwater, so it made sense to name the darkest beer after it. It's the recipe that I personally like the most. I hit on it over 7 years ago when I was still home brewing, and I haven't changed it at all since. The Chinook, hops in it, plus a very generous addition of roasted barley makes that for this lovely dry and hoppy stout. It's much more after the style of Californian dark beers. It helps lift the stigma around all sort of dark beers being, a bit heavy and sweet and a lot on the palate. Sort of trying to distinguish it from the likes of, Guinness. That's what a lot of drinkers in the area sort of associate dark beers with. So hoping to sort of change that preconception. And then lastly, there's our first special, which is the Vista. It's a much more modern IPA. It leans into the tropical fruits and big, bold flavors, and it's got much more in the way of dry hop character. It solely uses Vista, a new hop breed from the USDA in Oregon. And since this hop is a product of publicly funded research in the US, there's no markup to pay for trademarks or proprietary rights. So it makes it a bit cheaper than many other new varieties. And it tastes amazing, like loads of mango and pineapple, a bit of coconut and vanilla tones as well. I hope to see more and more of these varieties coming to the UK soon. They're absolutely fantastic. And this one was just great to brew with. I did add just a bit of low color crystal malt to give it a sort of chewy and sweet character. It seems I can't really shake my appreciation for old school West Coast IPAs entirely. We're currently selling in a number of local pubs and restaurants, local markets and shops across Essex, mostly in and around Malden, but also close by in Chelmsford and Colchester and the surrounding countryside, and obviously via our online shop as well. Thanks for having us on the podcast. Cheers.
I tell you what, John talks a very good game, doesn't he?
I don't mean it nastily. That was an exhaustive description of Ramsey Island, wasn't it? I really feel like you know everything there is to know now.
Absolutely. No, that was superb. Thank you very much, John. Yeah, so John's love of that beer really did shine through in that audio. You could hear him really talk favourably about that beer. All of them, but that one in particular.
And I think he's got good reason to, It's really smooth. I get a little bit of a chocolate coming through now, and it's not just pure roasty because it's a dry... It's just a really decent stout, this. We all know what the most popular stout in the world is. It's not like that, but they would be in similar parishes. They wouldn't be next to each other or anything like that, but there would be, some small connective tissue, I would say.
From what he says and what I can see, are you sort of tasting the hops in there as well? Because sometimes with stouts, you sort of it all becomes about the malt rather than the hops.
I don't necessarily get masses of the Chinook, but nor do I get overpowered by the malt, which I don't necessarily always need. And I find you do get a few stouts fall into that category where it just becomes malty and roasty, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you want to do, but it's a bit one note after a while. This is equal parts light, equal parts sweet, equal parts smooth. It is very, very good. I probably wouldn't pick this up normally.
But that's what this is all about, isn't it? Trying beers you wouldn't necessarily try and breweries you've never come across.
It's not that I don't like stouts. I don't mind stouts at all, but I wouldn't necessarily go for this stout. And I'm ever so glad I have, because it's really, really good. I'm really interested to see what the other two beers are like now. This has set the bar very high.
Well, yeah, I'm excited to get my package. Is it on its way or not?
Not as yet, but it will be boxed up in the next couple of days.
Oh, nice. What percentage was that stout?
4.8.
Well, it's interesting that you've got a 4.8% stout, because I've got a stout and it's 4.2%, so same sort of ballpark as yourself. I'm excited by this. I love the can art on this.
Oh, that's nice.
It's really nice and classy, isn't it?
So is that a thing that runs through? That sort of, it almost looks like a handwritten signature on the front.
I think that's just this one. The logo's there in all of them, but then for each beer, I think it's sort of different and different colours and what have you. But this is called Chef's Kiss, and this is from Cod Head Brewing Company in Saltburn by the Sea in North Yorkshire, which weirdly enough is another place I've been to quite regularly.
I never saw them.
I never heard anything about them, no. We'll hear from Steve, who's the man behind Cod Head, and we'll find out why it's called Cod Head, which is quite amusing. I think this is going to be quite similar to yours,
So is it sort of doing the same thing? It's not saying it's a dry stout or a milk stout, it's just a stout.
Right, so what you'll hear Steve say is that he wanted a stout that would appeal to some of the older drinkers in the area, North Yorkshire, more traditional, and not be sort of sickly sweet or anything, but have a hint of sweetness, a hint of chocolate, also a little bit traditional.
That sounds exactly like this beer that I'm drinking.
The way you've described it, yeah, I think these could be very similar. There's a hint of sweetness. You wouldn't drink it and say, oh, that's sweet. There's an element, a trace of it there.
I actually find that really refreshing. I think we've both become quite, bored isn't the right word, but we've become very used to pastry stouts and, super sweet and sickly and...
Yeah, sort of almost fatigued by them.
Yes. They have their place for sure, but I don't need it every time. Sometimes I want a stout which is just drinkable with a hint of sweetness.
Well, let's hand over to Steve, and he can tell you all about himself and the brewery.
Hello, Dave from Daftaboutcraft. It's just Steve here from Codded Brewing Company. I am the head brewer, if that's what you'd like to call it, the only brewer at the moment. A little bit about myself is my background is in bioethanol production for like a large industrial plant. That's what I've been doing for about 5 years now. About 2 years into that, I started looking into actually brewing beer and just binge watched loads of YouTube videos, and I was like, oh, this is something I'd really enjoy. Love the process about it, love the creativity side of it, and just started playing about with beers, and was then decided I was going to go commercial because I think I'd like to do this as an actual career eventually one day. But at the moment I'm just trying to have a bit of fun with it. So the name, in regards to the name, Codded Brewing Company, that actually was several night shifts of playing about with names, and some lad at work just always calls me Codded because it's a nickname from lads on the northeast coast, Saltburn to Whitby area. But I also found out a lot of people in coastal towns actually get called Codded, so I thought it was quite cool for what I want the beer to represent anyway, in regards to like just being on the coast, surfing and hiking, and that sort of like stems into where the beers actually come from as well. So my idea of my 3 beers that I'm sort of trying to refine and just get to perfect as much as I can, and just trying to concentrate on these 3 beers, which is 1 is a NEPA, which is the drop, 2 is Hiker's Gold, which is an APA, and 3 is a stout, which is Chef's Kiss. It's slightly sweeter side of stout. I didn't want to do too much because I still wanted to keep it very sort of traditional for the older lads in my area, because they didn't actually quite like the too much of a chocolate note, so I tried to like wind that down but keep a soft touch on the actual drink itself, a good mouthfeel. The drop is a bit, it's not too heavily dropped for a NEPA, not too heavily hopped, sorry, but I've made it a bit thicker mouthfeel wise and tried to keep it sort of a mangoey citrus twist, just with slightly less head than what you might be used to. And it's same with the Hiker's Gold, slightly less head, citrus vibe, but wind down way more on the citrus vibe. It's all just to quench your thirst after you've done your sports, and it's all refined around the sports for each of them drinks. Obviously you can enjoy it everyday purposes after a hard day's graft or something, or just having a little walk to the pub, but that's what the sort I'm aiming towards, is trying to refine my beers around them sports. And Chef's Kiss is just like a little treat for like on a cold winter's day, more so just a couple of beers when you just fancy a nice chilled one, more of like a dessert beer than a would you like to say, a binge drinker. Our crowd favourite is actually the Hiker's Gold, just because it's super light and it's not very heavily carbonated, so you can drink a few more without getting bloated, which was again around the hiking vibe. So when you finish a hike, you don't want to pound loads of highly carbonated lagers in you, but you still want that like refreshing taste that goes along with it. So let me know what you think, and it'd be good to hear from you. Cheers guys, bye bye.
Interesting. I never knew that Cod Head was a well-known sort of nickname in the north and northeast area. Did you, Dave?
No, I can safely say I did not know this.
We see it's not just beer we learn about on here, it's all sorts. He talks there quite a bit as he's describing his different beers about mouthfeel, and I think the mouthfeel is what he really focuses on with his beers, and that comes across in that beer really nicely. It's not heavy or anything, but it's still very full. A bit like you were saying with yours.
I think we've got very, very similar beers. It's funny how it works out, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like we've done it independently. We source the people, we talk to them, and then, funnily enough, here we both are with it sounds like very similar beers, but that's no bad thing because we're both very happy with our beers.
Yeah, and again, a relatively new brewery. Started off 2021, I think it was. Relatively new breweries, making some really good beers that you really want to drink. That is excellent. That's really good. And I was intrigued, actually. He talked on there, Steve did, about his background and his job in bioethanol. Well, up here in the loft, it gets a bit cold, so I've installed a little bioethanol fire. I wonder if you can do me a good deal on some bioethanol to put in there. What do you reckon?
Well, does bioethanol store well? Because obviously we're coming into the time where your loft will become roasting soon.
Exactly,
so if you could get some that just you can store for the next winter.
Yeah, I'm going to have to talk to Steve about this. But yeah, with the beer, very good. That is really enjoyable. I'm going to drink all of that and enjoy it all. Every drop of it, I think.
Get in touch with us on Twitter and Instagram at Daftaboutcraft1.
Right then, we are going to Maidenhead now on Daftaboutcraft. We are talking to Alex Bell, who is the brewer behind New Wharf Brewing Co. Good evening, Alex. How you doing?
I'm very well. Yourself?
We're good. We've had fun and games getting to this point, but it's been good.
Thank you for having me.
So we've done a little bit of background research on you, and you've got quite a long and varied history in brewing.
Yeah, it goes back a fair bit. Yeah, 1995 is when I started at Rebellion in Marlow, so seems to have kind of gone full circle geographically.
How old are you then? Because you don't look very old, but you've been brewing for 20-odd years.
Yeah, I'm 52.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool.
So I did a chemical engineering degree, and when I was a student, I quickly realised I didn't really want to get a job working in an office. I was working in a pub in Borough called the Trinity Arms, and I met the owners of Rebellion. And basically, after a few weeks in an old company, after I graduated, I realised that it wasn't for me. So got in touch with Mark and Tim at Rebellion, and they took me on as essentially an apprentice brewer. We did a lot of good stuff there for a couple of years, and after that I took a head brewer job at O'Hanlon's, which at the time was in London. After that I had a spell with Sharps. Then I moved back up to the south of England rather than the southwest, and I was working with Andwells for about 7 or 8 years. So my main day-to-day job is working for the ambulance service. I'm an associate ambulance practitioner now.
This is something that really interests us because in the course of arranging this chat with you, we were copied into your rota, and you see this rota, the hours you work are mental.
Yeah, that's before you even try brewing a beer. How
do you fit brewing and your main job together when the hours you do are so unsociable a lot of the time?
Well, I guess if you're starting the week doing a day shift and then you end the week doing a night shift, then at some point you're going to be getting a whole day off. Sometimes you just got to grab the bull by the horn.
You literally must be working 7 days a week between the two jobs.
It sounds pretty hectic, but it is pretty doable actually.
Blimey, I think you're playing it down. Where you are now at New Wharf, how long have you been with them?
I got in touch with Kieran. We just had a bit of a chat. He'd actually mothballed the brewery from the lockdown, and he was thinking to get it all started again, thinking about having a bit of a refresh on the branding. So when we came up with the designs for the beers, so the kind of the watchword for them was going to be drinkability. We weren't looking to do anything, super crazy on the IBUs or anything like that. So I don't know if you guys are ready to open a can, and then you can tell us what you think.
Funny you should say that. We already have. I've opened the Lost Soul, the Hell's Lager, the 4.2% Hell's. Very clean, very light, very refreshing.
Good.
We should tell the listeners before we go on to talk about the individual beers. The three we've got here are your three core beers. Is that the best way to describe them?
That's right. Yeah. But the Explorer's a sort of golden, you could say it's like an American style pale ale, rich, mouth-filling, sort of mid-palate from the Willamette, and the Hallertau Blanc gives you that really sort of light white grape with free lemongrassy sort of freshness. And then the Amarillo kind of sits sort of in between.
You don't see a great deal of Willamette around these days, actually.
No, that was what I was going to ask you about, because I'm actually drinking. I'm drinking the Explorer.
First thoughts?
It is different to what I would expect from an American pale, and I don't mean that in the bad sense. And I think it is because of what you've just talked about there with that kind of hop combination. I know what to expect from Amarillo. I know what to expect from Hallertau Blanc, although I wouldn't necessarily see that much of it. But Willamette, we were talking about sort of before we started the interview, that you don't see very much of it. So what was the sort of thinking of putting that in there? It's a nice addition. It's something a bit different.
I was doing some some trials for a new beer in a previous brewery and just tried some different combinations. So, and I just felt that there's a certain mellowness about it. Well, in the case of the Voyager, the Sars and Goldings, the Amarillo and the Hallertau Blanc are kind of like your violins and your brass. So you find that the Willamette's got a really easy, mellow sort of background bass to it that really kind of fills the palate. So hopefully the impression you get with the Explorers, it's got a kind of freshness, but it's like a really kind of juicy sort of flavour.
I've just polished off my Lost Soul, the Hells, and I've now opened the Explorer. And what you're saying really comes across, actually.
I get more grape and that sort of vinous-y taste, but not as strong as, say, a Nelson Sauvin. It's a bit more restrained.
I mean, that is a more immediately makes you think of a white wine like a New Zealand Sauvignon, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of who you're aiming your beers at, what sort of market are you going for?
Maybe we're not specifically aiming for the really crafty market, which is going for, really, really grapefruity beers and high levels of bitterness. But I hope that the artwork is attractive to people and it's, drinkability. I think is what we're looking for.
The reason I asked the question, because to me, it's as though you're straddling two markets, the traditional and the crafty side. What do you reckon, Dave? Do you agree with that?
It feels to me like if there were to be in the future sort of a New Wharf pub, for example, or a New Wharf brew tap, and then the cans would get out into a wider audience, and they're those kind of beers. And I sort of almost want to have my Explorer with some food, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, what would you have?
Oh, that's throwing it back onto you there.
That's a good question. Hang on.
We should ask, actually, is there a brew tap?
Not yet. We're constantly kind of looking out for the potential in Maidenhead. New Wharf is part of Maidenhead where there is a wharf on the river, and that's where the brewery obviously gets its name from. And this is kind of where it's kind of that thing about the whole travel vibe, which is what you're trying to slightly capture in the design of the labels, that it's slightly exotic. It's about discovering new places and new experiences. There is, behind the sort of smiley faces on the can, there's a bit of a story to it. So at the end of the day, although my brewing history is 29 years old, brewers have been experimenting for thousands of years, basically. The whole story of brewing is pretty inspirational, I think, and how a lot of people would argue that beer was the spark for civilization itself when a spontaneous fermentation was first encountered accidentally. So let's say your hunter-gatherer has stored some of his grass seeds, which he might have when he hasn't had life to eat. He's forgotten where he's put it. Rainfall fills up your little cup of seeds. Seeds absorb the water and they start to molt. Hunter-gatherer comes back. There's grass starting to grow out of the top of his little pot. Things don't fancy this too much. He leaves it. Maybe he rips out the grass, has a bit of salad with his bit of deer or something that he's caught. And then you get a lot more heavy water. The pot fills up to the brim of rainwater. Malted seeds then start to break down as they would in a mash tun. So the enzymes are breaking down the starches to sugars. And then spontaneously yeast floating around in the air lands in the water and slowly starts to ferment it. And your hunter-gatherer comes back and this smells horrible and it looks horrible, but and had a swig, and lo and behold, there is the first sort of wave of intoxication ever discovered.
Just say on the cans, beer for the storytellers, and you've certainly told a story there, which is on our last episode we spoke to Sean from Breed's Cross in Rochdale, who was also a great storyteller. So it's interesting that we follow that theme again, storytelling and beer together.
Are you familiar with how hops kind of came and went in the sort of the Middle Ages? Obviously Henry VIII banned them at one point, but people were experimenting with anything basically counterbalance the sweetness of malt base. So anything with a bitter taste been used to kind of balance in beer, but unfortunately bitterness is quite often a sign in nature that something is poisonous. So the people who are doing who are often women, could either be celebrated, or if something went wrong and they eat something with wormwood or poison ivy or something like that, it might have given a slightly balanced flavour, but equally it might have sent the drinker into a coma or have other sort of maybe hallucinogenic effects.
We've entered a whole new realm here.
Yeah, is this all new to you?
Yeah, 100%.
I did quite a lot of research for this. I was very lucky to be invited to give a lecture at the Royal Institution in about 2006, 2007, something like that. And Just researching this thing. So in the Middle Ages, brewers were using alternatives to hops, and apparently the last recorded burning by beer wit was, I believe, in the same decade or maybe the decade before Macbeth was written. So I would postulate that maybe these witches in Macbeth were actually brewers.
It's nuts, this, Dave. I didn't expect to be talking about burning witches on this chat. So you're very much into your history of beer. This is all part of it for you.
Well, it's just an interesting thing to talk about, isn't it? Yeah, I mean...
Oh, it's fascinating. Do you feel enlightened now, Dave?
I do. It's rather thrown me from when I was about to say... we went well off track, which is what all this is about.
We love going... That's no slur. We love going off track, don't we? It's great.
We were talking about exploring. I've obviously had plenty of time to think now, and I was going to say... I think I'd like to have it with either fish and chips or maybe a Thai green curry, just to bring it back.
Right,
round.
yeah. Yeah, well, I was going to say something like, sweet chili prawns or something like that. So, yeah. But yeah, I mean, getting back to, do our beers, are they a traditional style or are they craft style? I'm still not entirely sure what the definition of craft is. We've
talked about this on the podcast quite a lot recently, and we've come to the conclusion that, look, if you make a beer and we like it and it's good, it's beer. It doesn't matter what genre you want to put it into, craft, trad, whatever. We just like nice beer. And we stand by that, don't we, Dave?
And I think as well, but it feels like within craft at the moment, or craft as we sort of might loosely define it, there's now a bit of a move of people coming back to the beers that were always there, and then craft came and changed it. And now people are tapping into those styles and actually saying, well, how can we sort of take that style from centuries ago or 20, 30 years ago and make it a bit more modern and put a bit of a twist on it. And that feels like that's what's happening within the scene now. Like there's not that much a hoppy 6% pale ale is a hoppy 6% pale ale. That's kind of been done to death. Like what else can we do? And there's a whole existing scene that was there before, which was doing things perfectly fine, but you can go back and find out why it was doing it really well. And then
I think it's no surprise that you're finding breweries who we would say are craft breweries now making more and more milds, more bitters, these traditional styles. Daya, for example, I had a best bitter on cask from Daya just the other day. We're going back to these more traditional roots more and more. Going back to New Wharf, how long has the brewery been running for?
I think it started in about 2017.
So the beers that we're drinking now, these are your recipes. You design these beers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. When I started, the brief was kind of good, honest beers with plenty of drinkability. It's kind of an essential. And if you go for really strongly flavored beers, either high ABV or high IBU, it does reduce your drinkability. So yeah, we just want beers that you'd be very happy to have a couple of after a day at work.
I've got to say these are slipping down very nicely.
Good.
They really are. I fancy a bit of smoked cheese now with Explorer. Right. I think that would work quite nicely as well.
Yeah.
The thing is, I know we've got some smoked cheese downstairs in the fridge as well, and I sort of just fancy a little bit now. So New Wharf, what size brewery are we looking at? Because we're really in the dark. We don't know how big it is or anything really.
It's the old Oxfordshire Ales brew kit, as I understand. So our capacity is about 15 barrels. There's 3 FEs, a couple of conditioning tanks. If demand goes wild, then we'll be brewing sort of 3 days a week.
So how many people are involved with the brewery then?
At the moment, there's just me and one other guy who just helped out with cask cleaning and stuff. But obviously, we've got the sales guys and the marketing guys, so we're all kind of geared up.
It feels as though you're ready to kick on a gear or two.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Have you got sort of plans for more beers coming along? Are there sort of certain things you want to try? Or
I'd love to get another porter or a stout out for next winter. Yeah, I've done quite a few stouts and porters over the years, particularly one of a Dunkel that I did about 4 years ago, or about a year before I had that brief pause in brewing during the lockdown.
No, I hear what you're saying there. I like a good Dunkel.
I'm glad I'm not alone on that, but I do get a sense, or a lot of people are just very, very hop orientated.
I do think that's changing a bit. I think we've seen so much of that recently. I do think it's starting to change now. I think there's only so many big, hoppy beers you can have. And after a while, they all start tasting the same. We found it. We're wanting something a little bit different now. So as for you and your journey in beer, how do you want the next few years to pan out for you and for New Wharf? What's the plan?
In the near future, the keg market, that's going to be happening fairly soon. If we could get a brewery tap going in Maidenhead, that would be brilliant. And extending the range of beers, so as well as the Explorer and the Voyager and the Lost Soul, as I say, maybe a stout or a porter as well.
Would you be sort of tempted to do one-off seasonal beers and that sort of thing? So you'd have your core range and then, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. That seems to be the way more breweries are going now.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think if you're doing that, you've got your core range, which appeals to the people that drink your beers all the time. The one-off seasonals appeal to people who like to have different stuff all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe just doing a slight spin on some of your regulars with, different headline hops in them. They know what their regular beer normally tastes like, but it's the whatever, Nelson, Sauvin or Jester or whatever it is, version of that same beer helps educate the drinker.
Yeah, absolutely. A really key point about your beers is you can get hold of them. They're really good value, aren't they, Dave?
They are very good value, actually. It's worth saying, I think 6 beers, that includes delivery, I think you're about £20.
I think it was less. I think it was just under £19, actually, 6 beers delivered. In an age when, we can be paying £6-7 for a beer in a can quite easily without even thinking about it. That is tremendous value.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of breweries who are, hoping to get that marketing, the golden hen, which allows them to, charge that sort of price. But a lot of breweries, we're, just trying to give value, basically.
I've drunk 2 of your beers tonight, and I thoroughly enjoyed both of them. Great value, and I've got these beers again in the fridge downstairs, and I shall drink them again with pleasure.
Excellent. Did you want to have a quick swig of some of the Voyager, or have I rushed you along too much?
Go on then. Well, you've talked me into it. You knew I was going to say that, Dave, didn't you?
You twisted his arm there. You can practically see it up his back there, Alex.
I never need a great deal of persuasion to open another one. I started off with Lost Soul, the Hells, and we went into the Explorer, the American IPA, and this is your third core beer. This is Voyager.
So you've got a bit more of a malt base, there's a bit more Crystal and Cara, a bit of Munich, a bit of torrefied wheat, just to soften the palate and it help give it a really sort of full sort of kind of structure to it. And then hops-wise, you've got the Willamette again, which I really rate as just giving you that excellent mid-palate and great length. And then on the end, you've got a mixture of Goldings and Stars and a bit of Solea just to give you the highest notes.
What comes across to me with this beer and the previous two, actually, they're all really well balanced.
That is kind of my watchword when I make a beer. I think if it's not balanced, it's flawed.
There's a bit of something in there for everybody, actually. That's my take on it.
Well, good. I would be happy if everybody found that there was something in the beer which really appealed to them.
Could you pair it with some food off the top of your head, Dave?
When we go out to sort of the little local pubs around here, there's often amber ales on cask, and usually bar snacks is what will go. That's what is available in there, and that's what I would then associate amber ales with, bar snacks. If somebody handed me a lovely cheese and onion cob right now, or a pork pie or something, I'd happily polish it off while drinking this.
Yeah, that I was going to say. You
Scotch egg,
Scotch egg as well. Absolutely,
it'd be down your neck in no time.
Yeah, no, that it's impressive. It's good. I'm really enjoying it. Actually, I can't really pick fault with it. It's an amber ale. I'm enjoying it. Wouldn't necessarily be my go-to sort of beer. I love sours and and more obscure stuff, but I'm enjoying it. So if somebody like me can enjoy it, lots of people can.
You're a long way from a sour.
Have you ever brewed a sour, or would you want to?
I never have. I guess, never say never.
I feel as though, Dave, what we need to do when we speak to brewers on the podcast is set them a challenge, like for the next 6 months or 12 months, and maybe our challenge to you is to brew a sour.
Okay, well, yeah, we can certainly look into it.
Something completely different like that. Would that put you out of your comfort zone? Would you not want to do it? Would you do it? How would you feel about that?
Well, yeah, it would put me out of my comfort zone. I've never brewed a sour before. And to be honest, I rarely drink them myself. So
I'm with you on that.
It's the sort of thing I'd be better off doing as a kind of a collaboration with someone who's brewed sours a lot.
I'd much rather get excited about the Dunkel, which we talked about briefly earlier, personally. I'm not a sour person.
I knew
either.
you were going to come back to this, Dunkel. I knew it.
I got into craft beer through German and Belgian beer 10, 15 years ago. I remember having it the first time, thought it was horrible, and then your palate develops and having it again, and now I love beers like that. So that kind of tradition really speaks to me, which I think, having talked to yourself, I think that's the kind of thing that you like and comes through in your beers.
Yeah, I think I'd probably doff my cap to a lot of the German brewers.
Yeah, it's just the epitome of the style, isn't it? You know, when a lot of craft breweries in the UK have sort of done, you know, we had a lot of Oktoberfest beers came out last year and fest beers in sort of UK fest beers, and then they're fine. There is nothing wrong with them, and there's some very good ones. But then you have a German fest beer, and you sort of think, yeah, there's a reason why they've been doing this for centuries, and craft beer UK breweries have been doing it for less than 10 years.
If you go to Germany, is there like a massive shift towards really hoppy IPAs these days?
Nope. I don't think so. There are breweries that do it, but there's also a lot of tradition still there, isn't there?
Like Frau Gruber, for example, who we've had on back when we really first started, actually, and there are some modern sort of styles being brewed over there, but their go-to, which we would look at and, you know, you think, well, we don't have that kind of traditional beer in the sense of how good it tastes in some ways. That's still what shifts. I wouldn't know 100%, but it doesn't feel like there's been a big shift where everyone wants to get sort of Verdant or Cloudwater or everything over there. It might be around a little bit, but people will still more likely be drinking Hofbrau and Augustiner, etc.
Yeah, it sounds like you've had a bit more time to sample the German beers, because sadly my family life rather precludes me taking a week off going around breweries, but it would be a lovely thing to do.
Oh, you know about this, Dave, don't you?
Yeah, I do, with a nine-month-old. My sampling beers outside of my four walls has gone through the floor in the last 9 months. That doesn't happen anymore.
Probably helps with the shift in the middle of the night. Have a couple of bottles to get you off quite early in the evening, and then you're ready for doing that feed at 3 a.m.
100%. That is exactly how I map my life. How many can I have to fall asleep to then still be functioning like a few hours later?
Right, so look, if people want to get hold of your beers, where can they get them from? Where's the best place to head to?
So Google New Wharf Brewery, and then I think pretty quickly you should find the shop link. Just click on the can icons, and that'll tell you how to order it. Fill your boots.
Do what we did. We ordered a mixed 6-pack, didn't we, Dave? So we've got 2 each of the 3 core beers. And like we say, that was less than £19 delivered.
And it's also worth pointing out on the same thing. If you ordered 2 lots, so essentially 12 cans, it's free delivery on all orders over 30. And 30 is a very low bar these days for free delivery. Kudos for that.
It's an expensive hobby, isn't it, for a lot of people? So if anything can help to make it a little bit cheaper, then great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, what we want to offer is tasty beers that don't seem like a challenge, but they are drinkable beers. You got a good looking can, and you know it's not really denting your wallet too hard.
I think everything you've just said there is absolutely spot on.
Yeah, and I think the beers fill the brief of what you've just described as well. So
job done.
Excellent.
Here's the music. It tells us it's time for tried and tested. Our favourite beer or beers since our last episode. What have you been enjoying, Dave?
On the basis of sort of how I do this is I'll often go and have a look at what I've checked in on Untappd, and usually whatever comes out on the highest rating is generally the best one I've had. And I've actually had a few where I've put in exactly the same rating. So honourable mentions for Pressure Drops, Year of a Crab.
Oh yeah, remember their crab Instagram post?
Yeah, Crab Fact, which was brilliant. Campaign, but Year of the Crab subsequently came out. I had that, really enjoyed that. Governing Forces, which was an Equilibrium, part of the big US drop, which has sort of made its way to pretty much every bottle shop in the UK, it feels like. It was good. I was left wanting a bit more, but it was still a good beer. In the Mix from Dark Revolution, who are down in Salisbury. I always enjoy Dark Revolution.
They're good, aren't they?
However, after all that, my favourite beer is a callback to the previous episode, number 58, when my brew to me was by Sobre Mesa. Having enjoyed the big bottle so much, I stayed in touch with Adrian. I said, could you send me some beers, please? And also send some to you, as it was your birthday since we last recorded.
You did.
And Adrian very kindly did just that, so we both got deliveries. Well, I've ranked them both the same, but the Farmer's Pale Ale by Sobre Mesa Drinks I thought was superb. It smelled so fruity. Don't know what you thought.
Yeah, it did.
Really fruity, but then to taste, actually quite dry. This is a beer which is made with British hops, Olicana and Jester, and then dry hopped with Harlequin and Jester. Now, I've had these hops, not had them very much. When I've had them in beers before, I find they're mainly bitter. I don't expect the fruitiness, but I've never had the hops do what this was doing. You know, this could have easily been some of the bigger hops that you and I have had.
That's what I was going to say too. To smell it and to taste it, you could have been dealing with big American hops that we all know rather than British hops that you don't see so much of in craft beers.
Exactly, and I messaged Adrian and said as much and said, you know, this was very impressive, and he said, yeah, I just sort of wanted to show that there's more to British hops than just, you know, what people think with sort of Fuggles and Goulding and things like that. There's all these great hops which you can do stuff with. So the Farmer's Pale Ale by Sobre Messer is my favourite. The Farmer's Pils, which I've had as well, I thought was great too, and I can't wait for the stout. What about you? Yeah,
I don't think I'll be disappointed with the stout. You sent them up for my birthday, like you said, very kind, and I drank all 3 in one hit. They're great, yeah. Right, I'm going other end of the spectrum with a big hitting 11% stout from Brew York, Champorado.
Well, I am surprised straight away.
Are you? Why?
I don't necessarily think of you drinking Brew York very much. I don't. I can't remember the last Brew York beer I had. Possibly it was the beer we did for this podcast when they did their Halloween series.
Oh, yeah. I don't drink much Brew York, but I was out and about recently and I saw this and I thought, yeah, let's try it. Right, so this is an Imperial Mexican Brownie Stout. As you would expect from the Mexican element there, there's a lot of spice in it. It was really, really spicy and hot, and that really shone through. It's like, you know, when you have it's chocolate and chili, isn't it? And that dark chocolate with the chili, and it was just lovely. I had a half or a third. You wouldn't want any more than that. 11%. Sometimes when you have these chili stouts, you're struggling to find the chili, but you couldn't miss this. This was blow your head off. It was so spicy and hot. That chocolate and the chili together in combination were there throughout the whole drink. Anyway, after I had that, I had another Brew York stout, which was their Easter egg stout on cask, and it was 4%. And I didn't even rate that.
It's just because your palate had sort of been dominated by the previous one, or?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, normal people start off with the 4% first, don't they, rather than the 11%. Maybe if I'd have done it the other way round. But I just wasn't getting a great deal out of that. It was supposed to be like their take on mini eggs for Easter. But I didn't really get any chocolate. It was just brown malty liquid. But yeah, can't complain at all with a Champorado. Absolutely fantastic. And if you do see it anywhere, grab yourself a third. I don't think you'll be disappointed.
You're listening to Dave B and Dave D on Daft About Craft.
Don't know how many of your listeners out there have been to Bristol and been around the craft brew scene down there. Somebody who has recently is the brewer's wife, and she's here right now.
Hello.
How you doing, Sam?
I'm a lot better than I was a few weeks ago.
Why weren't you here on the last episode?
It's like Willy Wonka's golden ticket when you have a child, but it's a ticket to the germ factory and you never get to leave.
Yeah, you better get used to it. You've got another 15 years of that left.
Yeah, so I've had about 3 days where I feel okay and I can feel the next one coming on.
So we've got you in before you're ill again.
Yeah, capture me while I'm able to speak at least.
Yeah, there's been a lot of illness around. But anyway, you're back and fighting fit. And while you were in good health recently, you went to Bristol with Dan.
We did, yeah, for Dan's birthday outing, our first day out. Just as the two of us for 2 years.
Is that really true?
Yeah, 100% the truth. We have not been out or done anything together on our own since Delilah was born.
This happens, doesn't it? I think Dave B can
relate.
Also relate to this with a 9-month-old.
It just depends on who you've got around you and how sort of your temperament of your child and how long you can leave them with other people. She's not the kind of child you can leave overnight at the moment. Unfortunately, too many sleep issues still. But, the grandparents did step in for the day, so we managed to get out. And, yeah, it was good.
Where were the places you went to while you were there?
So we started out at Wiper and True, which, if you haven't been, what a stunning tap room that is. It's just beautiful. It's got a really nice, clean aesthetic. Lots of wood and plants. That kind of
wood and plants.
Wood and plants.
Woman's stuff.
Oh, you need to be careful there.
That was a joke.
It's obviously the things that women notice, though.
Yes, that's what I meant.
Nice save. Yeah, just a really nice, clean, open space. really extensive selection of beer. Everything we tried was really good.
Their branding's lovely as well, isn't it?
Beautiful, clean branding. Again, it's just the black and white. The brewery equipment was massive. I looked at it and I said to the guy behind the bar, what size are those tanks? I can't even remember what the answer was because I was so stunned by just how many of them there were. So, yeah, we had a really nice little stop there. Got a shout out to the outside. They've got I don't know if I'm going to absolutely butcher the pronunciation of this, but is it gyoza? You know, the Japanese, like, dumplings? No?
I'm sitting here shaking. I don't know why I'm shaking my head. Nobody can hear that. No, I've got no idea.
Wagamama fans will probably know. They're just like little kind of steamed dumplings and then fried, and they've got filling, and they've got a van outside. That was exceptional. You know what it's like when you go to a tap room, you want to have like the right food to accompany it. So they just had everything, tick, 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 everything going on. Yeah, we really enjoyed it there.
I'm just looking at my phone because I've been asked to ask you about something in Bristol.
Oh, by Dan, I assume.
By Dan. He says, ask Sam about Charolander. Literally no idea what that means.
Okay, so do you remember our last conversation and we were saying how it's our first night or first time away?
Yeah.
And you said, do you think you'll argue? And I said, yeah, absolutely, like 100%, it's bound to happen.
Yeah.
Kind of like after we had that conversation, I went away and I was like, I really don't want it to happen. But, you know, when you've got a lot of life stress and then you add alcohol to it, sometimes it's, it's a bit of an inevitability. So the morning of the trip, I said to Dan, right, I've come up with a safe word. And if things feel like they're going to head in the direction of a disagreement,
you've got to say the safe word.
You've got to say the safe word, and then that's it, end of.
So did the safe word get said?
The safe word was Charolander. And anyone with small children who are as Bluey obsessed as mine will know it's a Bluey reference, yeah. So, yeah, any type. But then it kind of became a bit of a joke then, like, even if it wasn't going to get heated.
Oh, you said it anyway.
He just said it anyway, just like... And then it just...
Was this him saying? This must have been him saying it.
No, both of us. Both of us just throwing it out there as a little bit of a joke, and it kept everything mega light for the whole day. Nothing even got near to an argument. Even when our train got cancelled, and like that can be quite stressful.
He didn't moan when your train got cancelled?
No, it was all super chilled. Everything was super chilled. So there you go. It's a tip for any couples that...
I'm going to say that. I'm going to use that next time I go out with Dan.
You just...
I feel it getting a bit heated. Charolander, Dan. Charolander.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. So you started off at Wiper and True.
Yeah.
Where to next on the tour of Bristol?
What the guys from Wiper and True said, go and check out Fierce and Noble.
Yeah. Which
was such a contrast from Wiper and True, because Wiper and True is very large.
Yeah.
Fierce and Noble is quite small. Wiper and True is quite purpose-built.
Yeah.
Fierce and Noble's more like kind of in a space that, you know, they're just, do you get what I mean? More industrial, like filling a space.
Yeah, they've got a brewery and they've made space for some tables and chairs amongst the brewery.
It was like a house that had been converted into a bar. Like when I went to the toilet, it was like a full-on bathroom.
Yeah.
But with like a shower cubicle, but the shower cubicle just being like covered in stickers. So a lot more rustic kind of situation.
It's a good word, isn't it, rustic? It covers a lot of things, doesn't it, rustic?
And I immediately knocked a massive sign over there as soon as we walked in. So that was a good first impression.
And you'd only had a couple of drinks by this
point.
Oh,
yeah, it was absolutely, well, I say I was absolutely not feeling the alcohol yet. I haven't drank in that long. Maybe I was.
Didn't break the sign, did you?
Well, the sign was broken, but I do have it on good authority that it was already that way. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if they said that just to make me feel better or I actually did total the sign, but who knows. They didn't ask me to pay for it anyway. I had a very lovely West Coast IPA in there.
West Coast?
Yeah, it was nice. I like a West Coast.
Excellent.
And then from there, we took a little trip over to Small Bar because loads of people were sort of saying, you got to go and check it out. Now, I'm not saying... Well, I am saying I was a little bit disappointed by it.
Yeah, well,
lots of people like it.
The thing is when somebody tells you to go and look at somewhere, automatically it's raised your expectations. When several people tell you to go and look there, they're even higher, aren't they?
Well, you think, oh, this must be something really special.
Yeah.
But actually, it had a great selection of beer. So I suppose if you were just going out to one place for a beer, yes, absolutely, 100% it would give you. It had a huge beer menu, all different styles. A lot of it, however, was Left-Handed Giant.
Yeah.
Which we were then going to after.
Right.
So I was kind of like, oh, you know, there's not as much here to try as I would have. You know, we stayed in there for a drink. It was a nice little kind of stop off.
Yeah.
And then we did head over to Left-Handed Giant.
What you're saying is you went in, your expectations are really high, didn't quite meet them and you wouldn't go again.
Yeah, I think, well, not that I wouldn't go again. I wouldn't go again if I was doing that kind of trip. If I was in Bristol and I wanted to just go for a beer, then absolutely, it would be a really good place to stop, but not on like a kind of tap room trail. I wouldn't necessarily include it in that. And also, we like to go to these places with obviously scouting potential where we might be able to get the beer in.
Yeah,
it didn't kind of come across like somewhere that would buy as small as we are.
Right.
Again, that's an assumption. I didn't ask the question, but...
Well, if you're listening from Small Bar and you want some Copper Beach beer, we can facilitate that.
After I've just completely slated your venue.
Yeah, you've done it there. You've cooked your goose there, Sam.
Never mind. But yeah, Left-Handed Giant. Oh my God, what a tap room. We walked along the water to it.
And then it's on the other side of the water, so you can see it in front of you.
So it's literally, a great sight, it's like a massive brick wall with a square cutout with Left-Handed Giant in massive letters above the square cutout, which is like it's an outside area with tables. So you can sit right by the water if you're lucky enough to grab a spot there. And then it's a 2-storey glass-fronted tap room. Amazing space. Yeah. Absolutely amazing space. Incredible tap room. I did have an alcohol-free beer by the time we got here, though.
Oh, really?
Alcohol-free? I was feeling a little bit worse for wear.
Okay. How many have you had by this point, then?
I reckon we had 3 in Wiper and True.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's some endorsement, actually, to have 3 beers in one when you're on a little pub.
There weren't pints, but they had such a good menu that there was a couple that we wanted to try.
Yes.
So it was like it wasn't a one beer kind of place.
Yeah. That's good.
And actually, if I went back to Bristol, I could spend a whole afternoon there. So 3 there. I think we only had 1 at
Fierce and
Noble. And then we only had 1 at Small Bar.
Yeah.
So I hadn't had that much, but I haven't drank in a long time.
I'm going to say, actually, you wouldn't have been out on a session for a good little while.
For a really long time. So it did hit me a little bit. And I was like, do you know what? I'm just going to take it easy and have an alcohol-free, which was really nice. Tasted a bit like pop. And then we actually went... just opposite, when you come out of Left-Handed Giant, there's a tiny little cocktail bar on the corner. We were both kind of like, we've only got, 45 minutes before the train. We're not going to go anywhere else.
Yeah.
Dan knows I like cocktails, so he said, do you want to nip in for a cocktail? Which I thought was very nice.
Nice.
And we did have an exceptional cocktail there as well. So,
what cocktail did you go for?
Oh.
Just in case anybody wonders.
It was the name was something to do with the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. They weren't like standard cocktails. Was it a Carlton? Something Carlton. Whiskey based, because it's my favourite.
Okay.
But they're really proper cocktails. It's not like your kind of Sex on the Beach mojito, sugary sweet cocktails. They're proper cocktails.
And what did Dan have?
He had a beer. I think he sent you a picture of it.
Oh, he might have done.
He said it was all right. It was just a tin that was knocking around their fridge. Can't imagine they get through a lot of craft beer being opposite Left-Handed Giant's tap room. But nonetheless, whatever they did have was, perfectly fine for him. Yeah, and then we rushed back to our train, got told to get on the wrong train. As soon as we stepped on, I thought, no, this isn't right. So I said to someone on the train, is this the train to Birmingham? They were like, no, Manchester. It's like, okay, we definitely don't want to go there. So kind of jumped off, ran opposite to the platform, and then got on and realised our connecting train had been cancelled.
Oh, no.
So, but it was fine. We got home. Just took a bit longer.
Any train beers?
No train beers. I was ready for a train nap.
Yeah, that's a good point. Train naps are great, actually. Love a train nap. So you enjoyed Bristol then? It
was good. It does lead me to a very short, funny story if we've got time for it.
Absolutely. We love those.
As part of, this kind of lovely day we were having, Dan was sort of going on about he'd booked this Chamber of Commerce event that was the following Thursday, and he was saying, oh gosh, I just don't really have time, and I've got to go and do it, but it's one of those things that I'd rather not be in my calendar right now.
Yeah.
I'd had a couple of beers, I was feeling in a good mood, so I said, don't worry darling, I'll go and do it for you. Oh, what possessed me? I've no idea. He was like, great.
He wasn't going to let you back out of it after you volunteered.
He was like, you're in. So that's where I went on the Thursday. It was at Malvern Showground. It's just kind of like an expo for businesses to connect. And it's just there's like a food and drink area. So we were kind of part of that area. This guy came over to me sort of early doors. And so he came over and he said, I'm the guy that kind of, I'm new here and I book the exhibitors for the shows. They do like 3 big shows a year.
Yeah.
So he books
That's the one we've done before.
Yes, but we did it through an events company. The events company have a separate space. He actually works for
them.
Yeah. And he's like, again, I don't want to kind of slate somebody I don't know, but he came across very sort of aware of his own importance in his role, let's put it that way. He obviously felt like he had a bit of weight there. So I said,
did you put him in his place, Sam?
Well, no, absolutely not. But I did offer him a sample. So, would you like a sample? And he said, I can't really because I'm at work. But I tell you what, I'll have a can to take away.
Okay.
So I said, okay, great. So I'm sort of saying, what do you normally drink? Talking about the beers. I'm sort of going, okay, I think I'm missing something. It'd be a really good one for you to try. So I kind of put it down. I turned to get the card machine and he picked it up off the table and went, oh, nice one. Cheers then. See you later. And just walked away with this can. And I stood there like,
literally full of his own self-importance.
I was like, okay. And then the woman next to me, Indy, she's lovely. She does Indian food.
Yeah.
She said, did he just buy a beer off you? And I said, no, he just stole a beer from me.
Yes, he just stole a beer.
And she was completely, we were laughing about it. And
I thought for a minute you were going to start chasing him and saying, you forgot to pay.
Well, I didn't know. It was so awkward. I didn't know what to do. But I did find out later from other people that he'd made quite an impact in the room because he'd called somebody else a name within earshot of them. So they heard. He definitely wasn't well liked in the room, let's put it that way. But the funniest thing about it was he kept walking past me. And he had the can in his back pocket, just like taunting me all the way around the exhibit. I could just see this can.
You pilfered it back off him.
So yeah, that's the last time I'm volunteering to do anything to help Dan out. Okay. I just won't be doing so again.
Absolutely not. Well, the weekend just gone, the 12th and 13th of April, saw the Craft Brew Festival in Manchester. Absolutely fantastic event. I was there, had a great time. It's the first of a whole series of events lined up by Craft Brew for the months ahead. And I was lucky enough to meet up with the organisers a few weeks ago as they brewed their special beer, Hazy Days, for the event. And here's what we were talking about. Right, well, I don't know about you listening to this now, but every morning when I wake up, one of the first things I do is look at Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and one of the first things I see every day is an advert for the craft brew festivals, different craft brew festivals around the country. And I'm delighted to say I'm joined by the two guys behind the craft brew festivals, Simon and Gaz. How you doing?
Very well. It's a pleasure to be here as a regular listener. It's nice to be in your pop-up studio.
Well, yeah, we are in the Copper Beach Brewery. These two have had a very busy day making beer.
We have.
You exhausted?
We are shattered. Exhausted. We need a beer now.
Yeah.
What beer? Well, actually, that's the best place to start. What beer have you been making and why?
So we've done a collaboration with Copper Beach Brew Co. For the festival this year. I believe it's going to be a hazy.
Well, I don't know. You brewed it. You should know.
Yeah, I was going to say we like to have a festival beer, which is our own beer at the festival. And we decided this year to team up with Copper Beach because we think their beer is fantastic. So we decided to let them brew our festival beer for this season.
So it's going to be a session pale, and it's going to go into cans, and it will be available at all of your festivals?
It will, yes, exclusively available at Craft Brew Festival across the country this year.
Now, if you haven't heard of Craft Brew Festival, it's quite a new company, quite a new enterprise. It started last year?
It did, yes. 2023 was our first year of Craft Brew Festival. So sort of our background was in the music industry. We've worked with kind of festivals, promoters, large shows, and obviously the dreaded COVID pandemic happened. We found ourselves without any work.
Yeah, we just discovered beer.
We did.
I think everybody did, didn't they?
Yeah, we had no... We've been working in the music industry doing concerts and festivals for a very long time, and then COVID struck and we had nothing to do other than take pictures of beer and send them to each other saying, have you tried this one? And it was just like, yeah.
That's sort of the way it happened. It's the way we kind of kept socialising, but at distance, wasn't it, of finding new beers and sending pictures to each other and saying, you need to try
beer.
this.
Which was an odd thing for us because we hadn't actually been that into craft beer before COVID. We both liked certain beers and different ones, but we weren't as fanatics about it as we developed over COVID.
No, I suppose we weren't really. Kind of where it happened was through Tesco, kind of major supermarkets.
It was because you could actually still get the beers delivered during COVID, and then it was almost like a mission to introduce each other to a different beer.
So you got into beer in COVID, and then you came out the other side of COVID and you thought, I know, let's do a craft beer festival.
No. We thought because we'd got into the beer that much that we decided to go to a beer festival or two.
Oh, right, so you went to a couple?
Yeah, we did. We went to a couple, didn't we?
We did, yeah. Which, I mean, the beer on offer was amazing. We loved that side of it.
Yeah.
But the actual festival was just pants, wasn't it?
Yeah, we walked in and we were just like, oh, this isn't great,
I think the word festival, when it comes to beer festivals, is massively overused, actually.
Oh, absolutely. I think even we've overused it. But we just jumped on the bandwagon.
Well, they're not festivals, are they,
no,
essentially?
I mean, we are from festivals. We're from the music industry where we did proper festivals. Yeah. But we deliberately used that for a reason. We've stuck to the word festival because, we believe that a festival does bring that sense of joy.
Yeah.
Entertainment, the love, it's more than just beer. It's more about actually people getting together and enjoying their time together and having a good time and just being able to come together over something that is like beer, and then with some good music, some good food, with your friends, with your family, and just I think sometimes we just need to get out and actually just enjoy ourselves. And for us, that's why we kept to the word festival. I think it's more about the festivities.
Yeah, I suppose we like to use the word discovery.
Yes, discovering new beers and new food and new times. Discovery is definitely the way we want it to play out.
So it's very much like when somebody comes along to one of your festivals, they don't just have to come for the beer. They don't have to be massively into their beer.
No, we want to keep it open to everybody. We don't want to exclude people just because you don't know much about hops or how the process of brewing is, or you might not even know anything about beer, but you do like a good beer and a good taste, and good quality is the key.
I think quality is definitely key. I suppose like a lot of the breweries we invite and we work with at the festival, they are quite small. They're independent breweries. We do have bigger breweries that you might know, but most of them you won't know, and that's why we kind of use the element of discovery.
We've tried to keep it to a smaller crowd so that we're not oversaturating it with long queues and people struggling to get served or getting lost. We want people to actually be able to talk to the brewers and learn about the brewers or the brand and not just the taste of the beer.
I think that's a really big thing. If I go to a beer festival and the brewer, the people who made that beer aren't there, I always feel a little bit shortchanged. I want to speak to the people who made the beer, who came up with the concept of the brewery. I mean, maybe I'm probably not like everybody else, but I want to find out about that brewery, and if the main people aren't there, I can't do that.
Yeah, and exactly that's what we want to do. We want people to come along, have a great time, have great food, listen to some great music. We have some nice, talented acoustic session players, music on while the event's going on, plenty of great atmosphere, and then the beer offering. That's where we really want it to shine, because we do want to have the best beers that we can possibly get as an offering. But like you said, the key is actually having the brewers themselves there so that the people can talk to them. And if you're not that knowledgeable about the actual process of brewing, you can ask them. Yeah. Or if you're not that interested in the
you don't have to ask them.
You don't have to ask them anything. Or you can even just say to them what got you into it, because some of them started in the garage, some of them went to college. It's more interesting. We personally found it more interesting getting to know these brewers, and they're a quirky bunch, aren't they?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Like when we say we went to the beer festivals and we're unimpressed with the actual event, it's because you'd ask the person who was serving the beer. They're just a volunteer. They know nothing about the beer. They're just there for a free ticket, essentially.
Yeah. And we don't have anything against volunteers, but what we didn't want to do, we don't feel as though somebody there who isn't a representative of the brand is doing the brand any justice. So we're quite keen to make sure that the people serving are actually representatives of the brewery.
Definitely, that is so important for me. So when you started off, your first one was Craft Brew Manchester last year.
It was, yes.
How did that go?
So basically for us, we were like, let's just book this massive venue and put tickets on sale, and we'll approach breweries and
book them and they will come.
Yes, but we really struggled.
I mean, we are from the music industry and didn't actually know anybody. We just we just thought we'd just put on an event, ring up the breweries, they'll turn up and sell beer, and everybody will come along and dance and drink the night away. And then we found out that, that's not quite the case.
I mean, ultimately, lots of people did turn up, though, in the end.
Oh, yeah, I mean, this is the thing, like, because we are from a background of promoting...
You know how to promote these events.
We promoted the event. We had no problem selling tickets. Like, the tickets were flying out. It was just getting the breweries that was the
Getting the breweries on board, yeah, because I suppose, I mean, we completely understand it, the brewing industry. It's a very small, tight-knit community.
Everybody talks to each other.
Yeah, and I think, like, I mean, as we see a lot of time in the press, like, a lot of festivals, they do overpromise and underdeliver, especially to the breweries.
Yeah.
And then it's difficult as a new festival reassuring the breweries that it's worth investing their time and effort into our festival.
I think it's probably... I don't think I'm unfair in saying that people thought, who are these two Herberts, when you first started on the scene, because nobody knew your background, nobody knew anything about you.
No, and I suppose like the breweries that did come last year just kind of took a punt on it.
They've chanced it and thought, do you know what?
Let's give them a go.
They seem all right, and they've told us that we've sold a lot of tickets. Let's see what happens. And they were all pleasantly surprised.
They were, yeah. I think for like the brewery side as well, a lot of them said like, you've got a green room, you're giving us drinks, you're looking after us, but our background from being in the music industry is...
That's a perfectly normal thing to do.
That's a perfectly normal thing to do.
Because we said that the brewers are the rock stars. We treat them as rock stars.
They are.
I mean, our customers are coming to see the brewers,
Yeah.
So we're not booking the bands anymore.
You're booking the brewer.
The customers. We're booking the breweries. Yeah. And they are the rock stars of the show. And without them, there's no show. So we really want to treat them like the stars they are.
That's such a refreshing way to look at it. I think that's what shines through with craft brew festivals. The way you approach things is completely different to how a lot of other festivals do.
I mean, a lot of other festivals, they kind of see breweries as sort of a cash cow. Let's just kind of make as much money as we can.
Charge them a huge amount of money to be there.
Exactly. I mean, some festivals, they charge pitch fees of like thousands and upon thousands of pounds.
Yep.
And our pitch fees are £150 for a brewery, and we guarantee a minimum spend with them.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying our hardest to even get rid of the pitch fees.
We are, yeah.
We want to be brewers festival, it's for them. At the end of the day, if they're showcasing their beers, them customers that are there are looking for the brewers. The brewers need to find the customers.
You're trying to create a situation where everybody wins. You can make money out of it. It's your job, it's your business, that's all you do now.
Of course.
The brewers can make money out of it, and also the customers who are there can have a great time as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's completely our thinking behind it. I think sort of beer festivals in the past, there's been a few players in it who have probably taken the piss. And we've kind of come along and sort of disrupted.
You are disruptors, aren't you?
It was the biggest shock to us was when we actually finally started speaking to the brewers and found out that the beer festivals are making money off the breweries being there. And it's like, no, hang on a second, like, this is, the breweries need these festivals in order to survive.
Yeah.
So if you're milking them for every penny they've got,
they're not going to exist.
How are they going to survive?
Yep.
If they don't survive, who ultimately suffers?
Any sort of disruption, I'm all for that.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose we charge £47.50 as an early bird.
Well, you've done it differently this year, because last year I met you guys in Birmingham, and when I was helping out with Copper Beach, and you did tokens last year. It was an entry fee to get in, then tokens. You've scrapped that this year, so it's a one-off payment now to get in. Yeah, well,
if you look at it like last year, it being £15 to get in. Now, the £15 entry, was getting you a souvenir glass and entry into the festival.
A tote bag, yeah.
Yeah, but it was also, you get into the festival, but then, as you can imagine, like as promoters, we have to pay for security, we have to pay for staffing, we have to pay for venue hire, and all the other costs and the marketing and the advertisement. So the £15 entry doesn't really go anywhere, but it does create an event, and that's what you're paying for to attend the event. And then on top of that, you buy the tokens to pay for the beer. The only negative feedback we got last year was, one, the brewers didn't want to count tokens. They were like,
I've got to say, I love counting the tokens.
So, yeah.
I love the competitiveness of the tokens.
Yeah, I was going to say, most of the brewers didn't want to count the tokens, and then some of the feedback from the customers was like, you're queuing to buy tokens to then queue and buy beer. So it was like,
Right.
So we said, like, if we can combine it. So obviously we're still charging the £15 entry, which then the rest of it is beer. So if you took... I mean, somebody do the maths here. It's £47.50 minus £15.
Yeah.
Is
for
what?
5 hours.
30 odd quid to...
£32.50 or something like
for
that.
5 hours of unlimited
and then
craft beer.
5 hours of unlimited beer. You know, it's like, actually, if I said to you, now can I take you out into town and you give me £32...
We'd spend more than 30 quid in 5 hours, wouldn't we?
For the next 5 hours. You'd snatch my hand off. And that's what we're trying to do here. You know, we're not trying to... It's not about coming down and just getting sloshed for 5 hours.
Yeah, of course.
It's about just being able to take away the worry. You've already bought your ticket, so you're there now. But now you want to sample the beers and you want to walk around and try different beers and get to speak people in without trying to check your pocket to see how much you're spending and then buying tokens. And it's just like, no, you've already paid for your tickets. You've already bought the beer.
It's all done.
So now just enjoy it.
Yeah, it's nice.
I think especially the way it is at the moment with costs of living crisis. I mean, we even offer tickets on, you can pay over 3 months.
Really?
If you
Excellent.
can't afford to pay £47.50 or £50 at the full price.
Yeah, especially if you're buying a couple of tickets.
Yeah.
You know, it soon adds up.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's interest free, isn't it, to buy a ticket over 3 months. It's
a good idea.
You know, it's
so you get your ticket. Once you're in, a lot of other beer festivals, they're serving in
thirds.
Well, I was going to say thirds, but actually some less than thirds. 100 mils at some.
Not us.
Not us now.
No.
We're going for the full half.
Right. Okay.
We're
Excellent.
serving in halves. Granted, there will be some beers there which will be of a very high percentage, which will be served in thirds.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But I mean, that's more about being responsible.
Yeah.
We just think that if you find a beer you really like and you're enjoying it, then I think halves is fair.
So you had Manchester and Birmingham last year. Was it just the two last year?
It was just the two last year.
You're not ones to stand still.
No, so I think we've got a bit crazy.
Yeah, I mean, we're, when we find a good thing, we're all in.
Yeah.
So go on, give us the full rundown. What have we got planned this year?
Okay, so we've just done Manchester at Victoria Warehouse, and then we are back with our next festival in June at Liverpool at the Invisible Wind Factory. After that, we are then back in Birmingham at the Custard Factory in July. After that, we've got Swansea in August. After Swansea, we then have Bristol at the Document, which is a brand new venue, which we're very excited about. And then we finish up in Sheffield at the start of September.
And there's even talk of you trying to cram in another one in Lancaster as well.
Potentially there's another venue. The council contacted us, liked what we were doing, saying it would really fit with the city. So tomorrow we're actually going to go and look at it. So potentially another city.
Yeah, so that's more or less nailed on then. There will be another one.
It will be. I mean, hopefully by the time your listeners are listening now, we'll have Lancaster.
Excellent. And each one runs over 2 days, Friday and Saturday.
Friday evening from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. and then Saturday afternoon from 12 noon till 6 p.m. 5 p.m.
And sort of long term, where do you want this to end up long term? So I'm always interested in what goes on behind the scenes. You both of you, this is your full-time job now. Mm-hmm. You've got to make money from this at some point along the line.
Yes, I suppose that's the kind of long-term plan. I think the more we get to know breweries, the more we work with, we just really love the beer. It's interesting, isn't it? Because most breweries we work with, it's 1 or 2 man sort of bands, and we just love working with them, don't we? I suppose craft beer, it's still quite a new industry. Lots of people are still getting into it. So maybe we can help craft beer become the mainstream.
And you know what? In saying that, we do have one long-term goal, which we've always discussed, and which is obviously with us being from the music industry and coming back from delivering music festivals and concerts. One of the things that would be really, really good to see would be to get craft brew into
the music venue.
festivals.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, so like years ago, you would go to a music concert or a festival and you would buy a burger and chips from a greasy van without any hesitation and pay over the odds, and you were just like, yeah, but that's what you get.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you go to a festival, especially if it's a camping festival, one of the big ones, and you can have paella, you can have tacos, you can have a full Sunday lunch, you know, sat there in a field while it's raining with your wellies on, but you can have maybe some gourmet food.
But what can you drink?
But then the drink offering kind of like can fall short. Not at every festival, you know, we understand that some festivals are doing well, but they're still not quite where it should be.
Absolutely.
So what we're saying is, now if you go to a festival and imagine you just turn up and there's a this white truck selling a burger and chips, you'd be mortified. At a polystyrene trays, you'd be like, no, we expect better. Let's get that with the craft brew community, and let's make it that when you're at them festivals and you're at that concerts, you expect the best music, you expect the best food, but you now expect the best drinks.
Yeah.
And that is the long term for us, is to actually get all these brewers, these fantastic beers that we are finding and showcasing throughout the country, and let's take it into the mainstream.
There's so many people waiting to be converted who just need a bit of a helping hand.
Need a nudge.
I mean, there's millions of people, isn't there, that haven't discovered decent beer yet.
So it's very much, I get the impression, a big learning experience for you as you go along this whole process. Each event you do, you're learning more and more from it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
A simple thing of just sending out like a feedback form after the festival and asking people, just be brutally honest. If we've got something wrong, let us know and we'll change it.
Yeah. So as for breweries that are at your different events, it's not the same lineup for every festival. It changes from festival to festival, city to city.
It does, yeah. I mean, this year it's been crazy. The amount of breweries that have got in touch to come to all the different cities. It's quite hard for us to say no sometimes, just because obviously we've got a limited capacity that we can host brewery-wise. But no, some are coming to the mall. Some have just kind of cherry-picked a few, maybe where they don't have a bigger reach as they do in certain areas. So yeah, I mean...
You want to do a bit of a roll call? Who we can expect to see there?
Well, I was just about to say, just before we do the roll call, I was going to say, we would love to have every single brewer that wants to work with us. We'd have them all at the festival.
Well, a lot of them listen to this, so this is your chance to tell them.
Well, no, we'd have every one of them there. You know, we could saturate the festival with brewer upon brewer after brewer.
But there's one problem with that. What you have to
understand is, it's like, who benefits from that?
Yeah.
Now, we could put 50 brewers in a room, but the customer walking in can't get quality time with 50 brewers in a short period of time. I mean, 5 hours is long enough, but not long enough to speak to 50 breweries.
And you're not going to sample 50 drinks.
Well, I think less is more sometimes.
This is exactly what we're saying. It's like, why do you want more beers than you can sample?
Yeah.
Why do you want more breweries than you can speak to?
Yeah.
I think that's the thing as well, especially with like bigger beer festivals that do have 50 breweries. The organiser then has to squeeze what they pay each brewery, so then nobody makes any money in the end.
There's only one winner in that scenario,
which is the organiser.
I think the point that shines through is that you approach the whole thing very, very differently to a lot of other festival organisers, and I think that's because of your background. It isn't in beer.
I do believe, and well, we both believe, that our festival is giving something to the community where the breweries are getting something out of it.
Yeah, I've spoken to plenty of breweries. Well, we sat in one right now who was there and benefited massively from it in the time after the festival, with orders from trade and customers as well. You know, it's not just the money and contacts you make at the event, it's what comes afterwards as well that's important.
It is, yeah, massively important. And I suppose for us that's what we, as we kind of grow and develop these events, we really want to kind of push the trade side, so the breweries do get kind of after sales.
And we are promoters at the end of the day. You know, we're used to promoting bands, but now we promote breweries.
Right, so the roll call, who can we expect to see this year?
Okay, so we've got quite a mix of breweries. So is it 32 breweries we're working with this year?
Yeah, pretty much so far.
So our next event is in Liverpool in June, and for that so far we have announced Copper Beach, obviously, it's Top Rope Brewing, Neighbourhood Brew Co, Sheeps in Wolves Clothing, Gin Brew, Blackjack, Siren, Bayonet Brewing, the Indian Brewery Company, and our friends in Manchester, Cloudwater.
A real mix of breweries and styles, sizes. You've got it all covered.
It is, yeah. There's still 5 more to announce.
Oh, wow, okay.
For Liverpool.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that's just Liverpool. We've got so many different breweries up and down the country that, you know, we just want to support and work with. And I think one of the key things is to go onto our website, which is craftbrewfestival.co.uk, and there you will see all the breweries that we're working with. And even if they're not at a festival that you're coming to, or not at a festival, even if you're not coming to the festival, let's face it, not every listener can come to a festival. Not every listener wants to. But what I would urge every listener to do is get on the website, look at who we are actually working with, and check out them breweries.
Yeah, support those breweries anyway.
We did spend a lot of time choosing these breweries and trying to work with them, and they're definitely worth looking into. You know, get on their websites and support the breweries.
It's a really good message, that is. It's a message we try to get over on the podcast, you know. Give brewers a chance, spend a few quid with them, because it will help them and they will be grateful for it as well. So your tickets then, is there any early bird tickets left for any of the events?
So there is early bird tickets left for Liverpool, which is our next event. We've also put on sale Sheffield and Swansea. So when they actually do go on sale on the super early bird, we do them at £45 per ticket. So if you get an early, you can come to the festival, drink 5 hours unlimited, meet the brewers, enjoy the music, and it's £45.
£9 an hour. Exactly. Seems good value to me.
It's less than minimum wage.
Yeah. One of the key factors for us is just making it a comfortable event that everybody enjoys to be at.
We understand why other festivals don't do it, because it costs a fortune to hire furniture.
I remember.
You know, it does. It costs so much money to hire a table and chair.
I remember coming to Birmingham last year, and as we came through the door, because I was setting up with Dan here, there was an enormous pile of tables. It was massive, wasn't it? And there seemed to be people moving backwards and forwards all day with these tables.
Mm-hmm. But we think it's worth it for the customer. I suppose we're really focused on customer experience, and we really want to deliver that.
Yeah, I think for people who are just getting into this, maybe they're listening to us chatting here and they haven't listened to any other episodes of the podcast and they're new to the scene, this is a festival you can go to and find out more and not be intimidated by people, because this is always a big thing of mine. I think a lot of people who might want to get involved in craft beer feel a little bit intimidated because people know more about it than they do.
No, absolutely. I think one of the things that really shone out to us was sometimes you say the wrong thing in the craft brew world, but it's like, if somebody doesn't know what a good beer is, help them find it.
Absolutely. That's a great point. It's a very good point to end on, I think. Last but not least, we should give out the website address again, just if anybody does want to come and have a look at what you do or get tickets. Absolutely.
So if you're interested in Craft Brew Festival, check us out at craftbrewfestival.co.uk.
Well, that is just about your lot for this episode of Daft About Craft. We will be back the week beginning May the 6th with episode number 60, 6 decades of Daft About Craft. We'll have our report from the Craft Brew Fest, tell you all about who we met up with there, what was going on, what we did. We'll have more news, more views, more interviews, more tastings. So we'll see you in a few weeks' time.
Daft About Craft, the craft beer podcast.